I thought that I would say, I took some notes because we are all under the shelter of Prabhupada's lotus feet. He is the founder, Acharya of ISKCON. And from the trunk of the tree, all the fruit get their flavor. And we are Prabhupada nougats. So we should take pleasure in his mood, and we should embody his mood. And we should be remembering his position. I guess I'll say this right off the bat. We all have, it says here your speaker is not working. Is that a fact? That's just some weird note, huh? So I want to talk about Srila Prabhupada because we all have a connection. And Prabhupada said that I am a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. You are, if you're initiated, grand disciples. But that doesn't mean, like if you make of course people don't use Xerox machines so much, but if you make a Xerox copy, then you make a Xerox copy of the Xerox copy, then you make a Xerox copy of the Xerox copy. It gets more and more faded with each generation, right? Follow the example. So it's not that because I'm a disciple of Prabhupada, I'm close to Prabhupada, you are a grand disciple, so you're one generation further away. It doesn't work like that. Prabhupada said that the grandfather is more merciful, more affectionate than the father. And there's a letter, there's a number of letters, but there's a famous letter that Prabhupada wrote after the first big Christmas marathon across North America. And Prabhupada wrote back, he said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is pouring down his mercy on you. To give you a flavor, Srila Prabhupada is in Calcutta. And he met a man, Tarun Kanti Ghosh. Tamal Krishna Goswami told me this. Now, Tarun Kanti Ghosh, his grandfather was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He was a life member. He owned a bunch of newspapers, local newspapers in India. And he'd been to see some yogi. And the yogi had, zoop, by mystic power, had made an apple. And Tarun Kanti Ghosh was very impressed. I mean, if I was sitting here and zoop made an apple, you'd be very impressed, right? Float a glass of water, make a little bit of ash. Oh, must be Bhagavan. People are very impressed. So Tarun Kanti Ghosh kept going on and on about how this man had made an apple. There was no apple, and he made an apple. He didn't have a shirt on. He just had his gumption, so it wasn't by magic trick. He really did make it. So he was going on apple, apple, apple. And Prabhupada was trying to explain to him that, what about the supreme mystic? You talk about, whatever. But the man wouldn't hear it. He was completely stunned by this yogi who made an apple. So Prabhupada was humility personified. But sometimes, in his role of a teacher, Prabhupada had to assert himself. So Prabhupada told him, he said, I came to America with nothing. I mean, he had the equivalent of $40 in rupees, but you couldn't even exchange rupees at a bank. So really, all he had was a sack of coins to get on the bus. Prabhupada really didn't have any. And I think he had another $20, $40 because he sold a set of Bhagavatams to the captain of the Jaladut. But really, he had nothing. So Prabhupada said, I sat down in Tompkins Square Park with nothing. All I had was a pair of cartels and the holy name. And Prabhupada said, I began to chant. And from that chanting, some disciples came. And from the disciples, some books came. And from the books, Some festivals came. And from the books and the festivals, some deities came. And after books and festivals and followers, and so many temples came. And then Prabhupada said, and in every temple, there are so many apples. Apple chutney, apple halva. So to make one apple, oh, he must be Bhagavan. But what about the mystic power to make temples all over the world? South America, North America. We just got a letter, email from a scientist in Antarctica. He's on a Norwegian research camp in Antarctica. He's going to be iced in, no communication, no way in and out for 6 months. And he's ordering a set of Srila Prabhupada's books. So even in Antarctica, we have someone reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So when you stop and think about it, I mean, you've grown up with temples. I remember going on Sankirtan and telling people, we've got books on yoga. People would say, yogurt? I don't eat yogurt. We'd say, no, yoga. We have to back up. We'd tell them we're vegetarian. They'd say, oh, is that a political party? They think like libertarian, vegetarian, you know? I mean, people didn't know anything. And that Prabhupada came here and opened temples and then went back to India and completely revived. When you came out of Calcutta, when I came out of the Calcutta airport, 1973, there was, on the way to Mayapur, there was a big sign, and it was a quote, I hope I don't offend anybody, by that rascal Aurobindo, who was actually paid by the British to teach karma yoga. And there was a big signboard, big sign. And it said, you know, advertising billboard. And it said, we do not belong to the dusks of the past, but to the dawns of the future. You know what that means? We do not belong to the dusks of the past, but the dawns of the future. It means forget your Vedic culture, forget the Vedas, forget your old tradition, and just become a consumer unit and work hard like a dog. That's what that means. Just get with a program and become a consumer unit and raise the gross national product. So that was the whole mood, but Prabhupada went back and instilled faith again. Wait a minute. We shouldn't just chase after the West. They're miserable. Why should we be? We're off the track, but it's worth it. I was in Burma one time. Maybe it was Bangladesh. I think it was Bangladesh. And I had gone out from the temple. I was getting some office supplies. I met a young man, college student. And I told him, why don't you come to the temple tonight? We have a nice program. He said, no, I'm too busy. I'd like to come, but I'm too busy. So I said, what are you busy doing? He said, I have to study for a test. Now, we're not anti-education, don't get me wrong. But I said, why are you studying for a test? You don't have time to come to the temple? You're taking so many tests? He said, no, I have to get a good grade. I said, okay, why? He said, well, when I want to graduate with honors. I said, why? He said, well, I want to get into a master's program. I said, okay, why? He said, well, then I can get into a PhD program in America. I said, okay, why? Why do you want to get into a PhD program in America? He said, well, then I can graduate with a PhD from American University. I can get a good job. I said, okay, why? He said, well, then I can make a bunch of money. I said, why? He said, well, because then I can get a big house and fill it full of stuff. I said, why? He said, well, then I can get a beautiful wife. I said, why? He said, well, then if I have a big house and a big wife and full of stuff, I'll be happy. I said, aha, all of your effort is to become happy. That's your actual fruit of the end of the pie. You want to become happy. I said, now I'm coming from America. And they got big houses and they got big cars and they got beautiful wives and they're all miserable. They're not happy. I said, I come from America to Bangladesh to learn your Vaishnava tradition. You should think about that. I'm coming for what you are ignoring. And the guy thought about it and actually came to the temple. So my point is that you know, Prabhupada came to the West and then he went back to India and he established Krishna consciousness. It is the most mystical thing. It is the direct empowerment of Krishna, and we are greatly fortunate. Here's another story. Sound is okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, we're okay with the sound. I was in Detroit. It was 75 or 76. I'm not sure of the year. And, you know, Prabhupada's a darshan. There's about 25 people there. And an Indian gentleman said, Swami, can you read my palm? Prabhupada explained, you know, we don't do this. We simply depend on Krishna, Yokesh Mam Vahamyaham, whatever Krishna gives, what he maintains, whatever, you know, we lack, Krishna brings. Prabhupada said this is the childlike, not childish, but the innocent, childlike nature of bhakti. We simply serve Krishna and depend on Krishna. So Prabhupada explained everything very nicely. Guy completely missed it, went right over his head. He said, yes, yes, Swami, but can you read my palm? To everyone's surprise, Prabhupada said, give me your hand. So the man put out his hand. And you know how they do. Prabhupada turned on his desk lamp and he began pushing the man's hand so he could see the lines. Prabhupada was studying very carefully. We were all thinking, hey, if Prabhupada's reading palms, we're going to get in queue. He can read my hand as well, you know. So Prabhupada studied for a few minutes. Then he slammed the man's hand and he said, all bad. Birth, death, disease, and old age. I thought the man was going to have a heart attack. Prabhupada was so heavy. It was like you could hear a pin drop. The man was, oh, you know. Then Prabhupada got this blissful smile on his hand, in his face, and said, but if you clap your hands at kirtan, all the lines go away. So that the man got, that if we simply take shelter of Krishna. Prabhupada told another story. There was a man, he had 3 problems. He was poor, poverty-stricken. He had no children. What was the other thing? Oh, and he had no wife. So no wife, no family, no wife, no children. He had no money, and that was it. No children, poverty-stricken. Oh, he's blind. That's it. So 3 problems. Blind, poverty-stricken, no children. And he got 1 wish. And those of you who are thinking, oh, wish for unlimited wishes. No. So what did the man, anyone have an idea? You can mute back on. You can jump back in. What did the man wish for? He had 1 wish and 3 problems. Anyone know?
I want to wish my children with a lot of riches.
Here's what you're close. You're on the right track. He wished that I see my children from the roof of my palace. If you can see, you're not blind. If you're on a palace, you're rich. It's your palace. And you're seeing your children. So with 1 wish, he accomplished everything. Prabhupada says if you have $1 million, all of your 10-cent or $10 problems are solved. So Prabhupada is giving us Krishna consciousness in his books. We'll get into that in a second. But it is the 1 wish that solves everything. It is, you know, we have so many problems. Was it Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram? That Krishna is the everything, the master of Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's the best of friends. So, similarly in Detroit, there was a priest. And the priest came only because he'd been asked to by Lekha Shravanti. Lekha Shravanti, it's a long story, but she and Ambarish, Alfred Ford, were the 2 devotees who gave them money for buying the beautiful Detroit temple. And he came only because she'd asked him to come. But he was not happy, and he did not like what we were doing. He was quite sarcastic. And he said that he came in quite arrogant. It has a happy ending, don't worry. But he said to Prabhupada, you know, what are you doing here? You know, what are you, you know, people are suffering. There's so much poverty in India. You should just go back and fix the poverty. what do you, we don't need you here in America. Really, he just said, just like that, go back to India and fix your own, clean up your own house before you come to ours. Prabhupada evidently, either super soul or because he went to Scottish Churches College, I don't know what, but Prabhupada quoted the Bible. Prabhupada said, your own Jesus says that the poor will always be with us. And real poverty is poverty of spirit. So Prabhupada quoted his own Acharya and punched the guy back right in the nose. The guy was so shocked. The guy, wait a minute, I've got somebody serious here. So then he said, all right, but we're teaching the same thing. We'll take care of our program and you go back and take care of your program, because what's the difference between, okay, you're saying love God, we're saying love God. What's the difference? And the man couldn't get it. The priest couldn't get it. So Prabhupada finally said, okay, do you agree that humankind is suffering? The priest said, yes, we're suffering. Prabhupada asked him, okay, why are we suffering? The priest said, well, we're suffering because we're separated from God. Prabhupada said, all right. Remember, the guy's premise was, what's the difference between what you're teaching and what we're teaching? What's the difference? So Prabhupada said, okay, we're unhappy. We're unhappy because we're separated from God. What's separating us from God? The man said sin. Prabhupada said, yes, that is my point. We are teaching how to live a sinless life. They think just accept Jesus and I can eat any damn thing. And if I commit, like the elephant, whatever, he bathes and then throws dust on his back. So I go to confession. They like to go to confession on Friday so that they got a clean slate to sin again on Saturday and Sunday. And Hindus do the same thing. I do the prayaschita. I fast on this day. I ring the bell. I pull my earlobes. Okay, I'm back. I got a clean slate. But the difference is we are teaching how to lead a sinless life. If you study the rice farmer in the field, in addition to watering, what is the farmer doing? He has two activities, yama and niyama. When I first came to the temple, the first thing, this is 1969, Los Angeles, the old temple. The first thing I heard Prabhupada say, I walked in late. I was already coming to the temple in Laguna Beach. I had finally, I'd become vegetarian, and I love sweets. There it is. What can I say? I'm a sannyasi, so I have diabetes. Therefore, Krishna has helped me in that regard. But I love sweets. So especially baked sweets. But, I can only take Krishna. I was trying to become a devotee. I can only take Krishna prasadam. And, we don't make baked sweets because, and the karmas, they all have eggs in it. So I was feeling some withdrawal symptoms, some depression separated from baked items. I walked in, I heard Prabhupada say, we have so many donuts. I thought he said donuts. With Prabhupada's sweet Bengali accent and me completely covered by the modes of material nature, I thought donuts, fantastic. He's talking about the Sunday feast. I thought, just see, great philosophy, the holy name, wonderful devotees, and donuts too. Man, I have hit the jackpot. I was feeling quite happy, But then as I listened, I realized Prabhupada was saying that every process has do's and do nots, yama and niyama. So the farmer, Prabhupada went on to say that the rice farmer, sure, he's putting the rice shoots into the paddy field, but he has to pull the weeds out too. So we have, as devotees, two things. We have to do the positive activities, and there's a whole list. What is it? Atyahar? Utsahan nischayat daya tat karma pavartate, Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita. He gives us 6 positive things, and he also gives 6 negative things. We find it's a great section in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the cleaning of the Gundicha temple. Raise your hand if you've read the section, Madhya Lila, cleaning of the Gundicha temple in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Raise your hands. Oh, geez, not so many. why is that cleansing? I saw him sticking his tongue out. Why is that pastime important? Cleansing the temple. What does it symbolize? Why are they cleaning the Gundicha Marg temple? Somebody can unmute and tell us why, other than Ramchandra. Anyone else know why?
It represents cleaning of heart.
Okay, it represents cleaning the heart. But they were cleaning the temple for what purpose? That you're correct. But before we get to that, who was going to come there? Why were they cleaning the temple?
The Lord Jagannath was supposed to come, will be coming. So they are cleaning before he comes.
They were cleaning the temple before Lord Jagannath would come. So similarly, if we want Krishna Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. We want Krishna, the best of friends, to sit in our heart. We have Shiksha Guru, we have Diksha Guru, other than Ramchandra and Ram Tulsi. What's the third Guru? Siksha Guru, I said. Diksha Guru, I said. What's the other third Guru? Anyone want to say?
Cheta Guru.
Who said Cheta Guru? Where's that? Yeah, you're right. Cheta Guru. And what is Cheta Guru? Gopal Govinda. What is Cheta Guru?
Cheta Guru is Paramatma sitting in your heart.
Is Krishna in the heart. Now, if we want Krishna to sit in our heart, can our heart be dirty? Does Krishna want to sit on a pile of garbage? He wants to sit in a nice and clean place. So if we want to get, oh, Krishna, please help me. We want our, please give me guidance. Well, we have to have, just like a radio station. The station is sending out the signal. But what else is required? Is that sufficient? Someone want to guess? If I want to hear the radio message, radio station is sending out the message. What else is required?
You need to tune into that frequency.
I have to have a radio and I have to turn it. Very good. I have to tune into the frequency. So Krishna's sitting in our heart, but we have to learn how to tune into that frequency. We have to become free from anarthas. So Prabhupada was making this point that the difference is we are giving the science. We used to go from Detroit to Windsor, Canada for book distribution. Check out a map. It's the only place in the United States you can go south to Canada because of the way that the river turns. Anyway, it's quite interesting. So anyway, we used to go to Canada, and one time we got stopped by the Canadian Customs. And, we said these are religious books. Religious books, you don't have to pay duty or tax to bring them in or out of the country. That's your law. They said, well, we have to send them to the customs office in Ottawa and have them analyze, are they actually religious? So they took some samples of the books, and we couldn't come back until we got a letter authorizing. So the letter arrived from the Canadian Custom Office in Ottawa about 3 days before Prabhupada arrived. So our temple president showed the letter to Prabhupada. You know what they determined the books were? They had Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion. They said Ishopanishad. They said these books are not religious, they're scientific. And Prabhupada liked it very, very much. He said, very good, that this is a science. It's not just sentiment, but science means you have a theory and you practice the theory and you get a result. And if you perform the experiment properly, you have to have a, pure distilled water, closed system. It has to be pure. And if you perform the exercise properly, then you'll get the result. I remember, you take your lab book, you combine everything, and if there's no contamination, you get the result. That's proof of the theory. So the fact of the matter is, if you chant Hare Krishna, if you follow the regular principles, if you serve the Vaishnavas, all the different, you get the result. You become Krishna conscious. And what is the proof? You lose all taste for sinful activities. So it is a science. Okay. I want to continue telling. So I wanted to talk a little bit about pride because it is one of the obstacles in devotional life. And as someone who is deeply infected by pride, it is a field I can speak with from some genuine experience. I was on a morning walk in Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada. And again, Prabhupada was humility personified. Yeah, and we'll give a class some other time, all the examples of Prabhupada being humble. But in his role as a teacher, sometimes he had to chastise the student. You just have to. That's your job, you know. So this man, he was a little puffed up. And he was saying to Prabhupada, puffed up like a big chapati full of hot air. So he was saying to Prabhupada, I own the biggest glass factory in Bengal. And I have another glass factory, and it's the biggest glass factory in Gujarat. And I have a glass factory in Andhra Pradesh. And he was going on and on and on about his glass factory and how he's a big glass manufacturer. So after a few minutes, Prabhupada said, and where do you get the sand? You know, sand is essential for the... He said, and the man was pious. So he said, oh, from Bhagavan. Prabhupada said, where do you get the silica? You know, it's a key element for making it. Oh, I get it from Bhagavan. Prabhupada said, where do you get the coal for your furnace? Oh, I get it from Bhagavan. So then Prabhupada said, everything is coming from Bhagavan, glass, silica, coal, and you are claiming that you're the owner? You are simply a thief. The man was shocked. So he was quiet. He just kind of fell back from the front of the line. But then after a couple of minutes, he recovered. So he came back up and he said, he said, but I give donations. I give donations. Prabhupada said, all right, you're a little thief. You know, Prabhupada gave him an inch, but not more than that. You know, you're still a thief. All right, you're a little thief. You give a little something back. So another time, this was in Detroit, there was a Sanskrit professor, and he was trying to impress Prabhupada. And he was trying to say, you know, your disciples, they're not studying Sanskrit. They don't know all the different, 12 years of grammar. And so he, just to try to impress Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, is it Krishna? Is it Krishna? Is it Krishna? How do you pronounce it? Prabhupada laughed. He said, don't worry. He knows who's calling. You know, if we call out with devotion, every mother, every father knows the sound of their child. If their child calls out in pain, there can be 10, 15, 20 children in the nursery. Every parent knows, oh, that's my kid. So we call out with devotion and Krishna knows. So that's the real thing. You can have perfect Sanskrit pronunciation, but if you don't call out with love, what is the use of the thing? Oh, and we meet people. I know it happens to you all the time. Oh, we know Krishna. I've read Bhagavad Gita. I am knowing. I know. So Prabhupada told a joke. Prabhupada liked to tell jokes. They always had a purpose, but Prabhupada was he enjoyed a good joke. He was not dry, he enjoyed a good joke. So I heard Prabhupada tell this joke. I'll tell two jokes I heard Prabhupada tell. And you may know this one. There was a man, and he was going to a foreign country. And he didn't speak the language. And the premise is, I know Bhagavad Gita. I know everything. So his friend said, he said, I don't speak the language. His friend said, we'll teach a few words. Everything will be fine. They taught him to say yes, no, and very good. And, if you've ever been in a foreign country, didn't speak the language, with pantomime and pointing, you can get a lot of mileage out of yes, no, and very good. So everything was going on all right. One day, he was out in front of a bank. This is Prabhupada's joke. And robbers came, robbed the bank, got away. Police showed up. He's standing there. He doesn't know what happened. The police ask him, did you rob the bank? He doesn't know what they said. He said, yes. They said, well, give the money back. He didn't know what they said. He said, no. They said, what? The police said, well, then you're going to jail. He said, very good. Off he went, So Prabhupada's point is, we can't just have a superficial understanding. Bhagavad Gita is a deep science. And we have to have a pure consciousness by practicing properly and studying Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then we can understand Krishna. And Prabhupada told Sariputta. Sariputta Prabhu, double PhD from Cornell, one in statistics, the other in theoretical physics, smartest guy I ever met materially, and a wonderful devotee. He's one of the founding members of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. So he told Prabhupada, Prabhupada told him that people nowadays know more and more about less and less. I'll say it again, more and more about less and less. We have a nice devotee, Dr. Chadha, Raj Chadha, and he's an initiated devotee, Rupa Manohar. And you know, everybody's got to work. Here's a householder. And his job, he studies a special type of laser that goes through a special type of crystal. He gets paid $100,000 a year. And he's studying a slice of a slice of a slice of a slice of a special field. You know Prabhupada's story about the boatman? Raise your hands if you know the boatman story. Anyway, just quickly, I'll go back to the other story, but the point is, if we don't, what is the Vedic aphorism? Ante Narayana Smriti. Can you remember Krishna at the time of death? This life is gone in a second. It goes by so fast. The older you get, the faster time goes. And you talk to any old person, they'll tell you, I don't know what happened. It was like a roller coaster. Zing, my life flew past me, you know? So the test is, at the time of death, can we remember Krishna, and where are we going to go? So, you know, we can know so much. So Prabhupada's joke, here's Prabhupada's joke. I won't tell the boatman joke. Well, you know, somebody else can tell you guys, because some of you heard it. So, but this joke I heard Prabhupada say. A man is riding on a train in India, two friends. And in the old days, they used to have coal-burning trains. Anybody remember coal-burning trains? You know, if you go with a white dhoti and white kurta, when you get off, if you travel from, you know, from Calcutta, you know, to, whatever it is now, to Mumbai or Bombay, your dhoti and kurta are completely gray or black from the soot, you know. So anyway, a man and a friend are driving on a coal-burning train. They open the window for a little fresh air, and a cinder from the black smoke from the engine blows and gets in the guy's eye. So, you know, you get a little speck in your eye. It's extremely painful. So what to do? The man is in such pain. So his friend goes to find a doctor. And he goes through all the different bogies, all the different compartments, and he's looking for a doctor. Can't find one, can't find one. Finally, the last compartment, it's all full of doctors going to a medical convention. Fantastic. Not quite. One of them's a cardiologist, another one's a podiatrist, another one's a nephrologist, another one's, you know, whatever. You can't find an ophthalmologist. They're all specialists in other fields. Finally, he finds a guy who's an eye doctor, an ophthalmologist. He brings him up to his friend with the cinder in the eye. The ophthalmologist, the eye specialist, looks at the man and says, I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's in the left eye. I'm a right eye specialist. Ha, 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 ha. You get the joke? In other words, you know, we know more and more about less and less. Do we actually know what is the cause of all causes? What happens at the time of death? What is, you know, so many things. So, Prabhupada, you ever heard this one? God is everywhere. Why do we need to go to the temple? God is everywhere. And on one hand, that's a fact. You know, we have the whole section, what is it? First step in God realization. So seeing God in material nature. Sure, that's a fact. The artistry, the creation, the beautiful sunset and the birds and, you know, all the different things. That's a sign of Krishna's artistry in Krishna. No doubt about it. But if God is everywhere, they asked Prabhupada, if God is everywhere, what do we need to go to the temple for? Prabhupada answered, is water everywhere? Don't you agree that water is everywhere floating? I mean, they have humidity, right? There's a certain amount of water floating in the air, isn't it? Sure. You get 40% or 20%. So Prabhupada said, if you're thirsty, why don't you just drink air? Just take a bunch of gulps of air. Will that satisfy you if you're thirsty? What do you think? Where do you have to go if you want a drink of water? You have to go where it's concentrated. You have to go to the faucet. You have to go to where the water is concentrated. Then it will be easily realizable. So Prabhupada said, yes, God is everywhere, but he's especially realizable in the temple. You come and see the beautiful deity, and there is Krishna standing before us. So that's God is everywhere, but he's especially in the temple. And Malati Devi told me this one. Prabhupada's at Bhaktivedanta Manor. I don't know if you can see my hands. Where to go? So Prabhupada's here, Vyasa-san. Deities are here in front. Okay? One end of the temple, Prabhupada's Vyasa-san, Prabhupada's sitting there, the other end of the deities. A man stands up in the middle and says, "Can you see God?" Prabhupada said, "Yes, but you're standing in the way. Sit down." Prabhupada was expert, you know. Another example about material desires, you know. What does Krishna say? What does Krishna compare lust to in Bhagavad Gita? He compares it to something blazing and not the sun. Anyone want to unmute and guess? We don't have any Bhagavad Gita readers amongst
Maybe
us?
blazing fire?
Yes, it is like blazing. This is a cornerstone example. If I have a blazing fire and I put more fuel on it, does the fire go out? Does the fire burp? Thank you very much. I'm fully satisfied now, and go out? Is that your experience with fire? Abhay Krishna, I can see your bright face. What is your experience? If you put more fuel on the fire, what happens?
It grows more. It gets bigger.
It gets bigger. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that lust burns like fire and is never satisfied. That's a key lesson we have to understand. That because the whole world is chasing after more, bigger, new and improved. I got to get the biggest, I got to get the best, I got to get the newest, I got to get more stuff. Burns like fire and is never satisfied. And now our whole economy. Do you know that if it's a simple analogy, and I'm sure you've probably heard it before, but the United States, we have the highest ratio of consumption to natural resources, to the American style of life. For that to carry on, it burns up the most resources. Now, if we lift, just now, not speaking in the future, increased population, if we were to raise the entire population of the earth to the US level of consumption, which is everybody's after. They want to come to the American or certainly the Western, Australian, whatever it is, that level, a standard of life, of consumption, consumerism. If we brought the entire population of the earth to the level of American, Western consumerism, it would take the natural resources of 6 planet Earths. That's a simple fact. It would take the resources of 6 planet Earths. In other words, it is actually not possible. So what do? Do we have a ghettoized world? Do we have some people living in the West or, living in private gated communities in India? So do we have a few people that are, is the 1% and then 99% is, This is the first generation in America that the younger generation will have a lower expectation of a standard of life than the parents. The American dream? You work hard, you get a good job, you raise your children, you can retire comfortably, and your kids will have a better life than you. That is the American dream. You know why they call it the American dream? Anyone know? Nowadays, why is it called the American dream? Because you have to be asleep to believe it. That's why. It's a dream. It will take 6 planet Earths. So something has to give. People have to learn how to become happy. Krishna says, we're off the track, but it's okay. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he's talking to Arjuna. He says you cannot, it's a sequence. When you were a kid, did you ever do one of those connect the dot puzzles? It's a bunch of dots and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you connect the dots in sequence, numerical sequence, it gets a picture, okay? Krishna gives us a progression. He gives us a sequence of steps. Now, Krishna says, everyone wants to become happy. Anyone here, raise your hand here if you don't want to become happy. Do we have any closet masochists here? Everyone wants to become happy. Prabhupada says anamoya. It goes anamoya, was it anamoya, vijnanamoya, anamoya, jnanamoya, vijnanamoya, anandamoya. There's different steps, stages of happiness. Everybody wants, you put your finger down, the little ant will move the other way. The plant will grow towards the sun. Every jiva is looking for happiness at some level. Okay? So that's a universal common denominator. Everyone wants to become happy. So Krishna says everyone wants to become happy. So what do you need to become happy? Krishna says you have to become peaceful. Isn't it true? You can have millions of dollars. And if your mind isn't peaceful, you're not happy. You can be, you know, in the Caribbean, floating in the azure water, somebody fanning you. But if your mind's disturbed, you're wondering, is there a shark? Is there a barracuda? What's, you know, COVID? You're not, so you, okay, connect the dots. We all want to become happy. Yes. Well, okay, you want to become happy. You have to become peaceful. Okay, what's the next logical question? What does Krishna say? Well, if you want to become peaceful, what do you have to do? You have to have controlled senses. Okay, that makes sense. If your senses are agitated, how will you be peaceful? If you're not peaceful, how will you become happy? So what's the next logical question? Anyone want to ask? If I want to become happy, I have to be peaceful. If I want to be peaceful, I need controlled senses. What's the next logical question? Other than Ramchandra and Ram Tulsi, anyone know?
How to control your senses.
Very intelligent. How do I control my senses? That's the next question. Krishna says you have to have a controlled mind, because the mind is the reins that holds the wild horses of the senses in Krishna's other analogy. Body's like a chariot, horses are like senses, mind is the reins, intelligence is the driver, soul is the passenger. Fantastic example. So I got to have a controlled mind. How do I have a controlled mind? Next logical question. Krishna says the intelligence has to be transcendental. Well, what does that mean, transcendental intelligence? And finally, Krishna says one's consciousness, one's awareness has to be fixed in the sublime. One who understands that there's sat and asat. Just like when you recycle, there's recyclable, there's plastics, and there's recycling. You know, we're always sorting things. Pleasure, non-pleasure, happiness, distress, likes and do likes, don't and do. We're always sorting. So the bottom line common denominator of sorting is sat and asat. And when we understand, wait a minute, I'm eternal spirit soul. And stuffing things into my senses burns like fire. I'm never going to be satisfied. Let me please Krishna. I'm part and part. This is not my real home. Let me pick on somebody else. Who can I see? I see Shraddha Jai. Yeah. I have a question for you. You can unmute for a second, okay? If I give you a piece of coal, a lump of coal, and I say, can you please wash this for me and make it white? And don't worry, I'll give you a nice big brush. I'll give you gloves. I'll give you a handy dandy scrubber. Can you make that white for me? Clean it up?
Never.
Why? You seem like such a nice person. Are you lazy? You just don't want to do it? Come on. Put some, as they say, put some elbow into it. Can you do it?
No.
Why?
Because the constitutional position of the coal is it's
good.
black.
It is the nature of the thing. You can't change it. It's the nature of the thing. Similarly, Krishna certifies, what is this material world? It is temporary and it's full of miseries. That is the nature of the thing. What is this body? Generally speaking, we try to take Krishna Prasadam, but if you buy something, you know, in ingredients. I don't know what, you're making pizza and you want to look at the cheese. You got to make sure that it doesn't have animal rennet in it, right? You got to make sure that it says, you know, vegetarian rennet. Otherwise, you can't make that pizza. America's party food. You can't, yeah, ISKCON's party food. So, you know, you got to read the ingredients. So what does Krishna say the ingredients of this body are? Birth, death, disease, and old age. This place is temporary and it's full of misery. And okay, we don't just leave us there like a stoic, you know, like the Greek Stoics. This world is miserable, and the measure of the person is how much you just suck it up and carry on, like a tree, how much you can tolerate. That's the measure of the man. It's a existentialism grows out of the same thing, you know. There's no rhyme, there's no reason, but just try to act like a good person. Do some charitable deeds. For what? You're just you know, whatever. So Vaishnava philosophy does not lead someone just, you know, dead-end existentialism or be stoic, tolerate like a tree. There's an alternative. Let me pick on somebody else. Who have I not picked on? I can't see your picture, but let's say Jagadisvara. Can you hear me, Jagadish? Unmute. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Now I forgot what
Yes,
I was
Maharaj.
going to say. Jeez, I forgot what I was going to ask you. Well, I'll save you for the next question. I completely forgot what I was going to ask you. So the simple point is that there is an alternative. Krishna has not left. This is not our real home. Oh, that's what I was getting at. You back with me, Jagadishwar? You didn't escape. Jagadish, unmute.
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. So my question to you is, why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Prabhupada loved to ask this question. Makes you think, you know. Prabhupada's great at the Socratic method, you know, make people think. So why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Don't overcomplicate it. What do you think?
Don't know.
Think about it. Anyone want to guess? Anyone want to help them out?
Because hands have 5 fingers.
Exactly. Prabhu, I'm sorry, you were overthinking it. The shadow has 5 fingers because the original object has 5 fingers. You know, that's, you know, it's a reflection of the original object. So why does this world have form? Why do we have pastimes? Why do we have relationships? Why is there love? Why are all these things? Yes, they're there, but they're completely ephemeral. They are shadows of the real thing, the spiritual world, where there is real love, real relationship, permanent. So one who understands these things, that's transcendental intelligence. One's mind is fixed in transcendence. And automatically, if we understand that, you know, when some difficulty comes in this world, difficulty will come. It is the nature of the place. It's just, that's the way it is. Everything's under the influence of time. What doesn't fit in this picture? We are eternal. We are looking for eternal, unending, ever-increasing happiness. And this world is ruled by time. Do you see an inherent contradiction here? I want something that never ends. Everything's ruled by time. Guess what? It's, you know, it's an impossible equation. It's never going to balance. So we have to, if we want to become, this is again the projection, if we want to become happy, and everyone wants to become happy, then we have to understand we have to control the senses. And the senses means we have to have a steady mind. If you want to have a steady mind, you got to have clean intelligence. And if you want to have clean intelligence, that means understanding I'm not this body. I am the spirit soul. There's Prabhupada said, and we'll end here and then take some questions. There are 3 reasons devotees suffer. Here's how this conversation came up. And you can hear the tape. Prabhupada's on a morning walk in Mayapur. I was in Mayapur. This is Mayapur 1973. And let me tell you, it was rough. No one knew how to cook. We had no money. The only building in Mayapur was the unfinished conch building. We were sleeping in the conch building, which was a construction site. There were piled chips of concrete and rebar standing. That's where we were living. Nobody knew how to cook. I don't even want to tell you. We were covered with mosquito bites. Everybody had, the Bombay blues, Delhi belly. Everyone was sick. Prabhupada actually was giving a class. He invited us all to come. And Prabhupada actually said, you all come from the West in those days. You all come from, you have a high standard of life. I've brought you here to Mayapur. Prabhupada said, I cannot even provide you hot milk. And Prabhupada began to cry. He was so concerned about the welfare of the devotees, So Prabhupada's on a morning walk. I painted the picture of what our condition was. And Prabhupada says, devotees don't suffer. You can hear it on the walk. Prabhupada says, and he's got a bunch of sannyasis, GBCs, temple presidents walking, Prabhupada says, devotees don't suffer. There's a long, quiet pause. Devotees are processing that one. Finally, Panchadevita Maharaj, who has a distinctive voice, you hear him on the tape. He says, Prabhupada, if the devotees aren't suffering, what exactly are we doing? It looked a lot like that. And Prabhupada just laughed. Prabhupada laughed. And he said, actually, devotees suffer for 3 reasons. And he says the same thing in the Bhagavatam. One of the reasons devotees suffer is a token reaction. We've all carried with us seeds of past misdeeds. Everyone in the prison house, there's a reason you're in the prison house. There's a reason we're in this material world. And we've all got past misdeeds, sinful desires, but it's minimized. Instead of getting our hand chopped off, we hit our hammer, our thumb with a hammer, We get a token reaction. So that's one reason the devotees suffer. There's another reason devotees suffer. Look at the Pandavas. Look at Srila Prabhupada. Look at Kunti Devi. Look at Sita Devi. Prabhupada says that Sita and Ram, their struggles, one of the reasons is to show everyone that household life is difficult. It's not an easy thing to raise a family, and household life is not so easy always, And also, even when there's difficulty, Sita could have run off with Ravana. He could be very handsome, when he is a mystic shapeshifter. But no, she would not. There was no question of anyone but Ram. And Ram, he's Narayan. He could have made so many goddesses of fortune, but no, he made a vow. So husband and wife, death do you part. So devotees, when suffering comes, Prabhupada says it's so that the devotees can show by example. The mother teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. The daughter already knows, but when the mother-in-law says, no, you roll the chapatis like this, or no, in our house we make that vegetable this way, the daughter-in-law, who's getting to know the new family, says, she sees how the daughter is being taught, and the daughter-in-law learns. So they learn by seeing how, and there's so many examples, how they see the intelligent, surrendered, selfless, merciful devotees. They learn, wait a minute, I don't have to live like a miserly, self-centered, full of anxiety, exploitative person. Prabhupada says, they see, in other words, they learn by the example of the devotee. Gold is tested by rubbing, Chanakya Pandit says, and the character of a person is tested in adversity. So when they see the devotee's character, they think this person is happy, even in distress, and they're noble. There must be something to this Krishna consciousness. So devotees, remind me, I want to talk about 3 different types of people. But so devotees, token reaction. With sinful deeds, and Krishna is just giving us the token reaction. We have to pay our dues. Then to teach by example. And then the last one is, anyone know why devotees suffer? Prabhupada said Krishna gives us, the material nature gives us a good kick. Don't stay in this place. Don't stay here. Let me give you an analogy. Suppose I visited ISKCON Bergen, and suppose there's some young devotees there, and we had at the Sunday feast, and I give one of the young devotees, I give him $100. Say, you're a nice, sincere devotee. You buy some books. Here's $100. Let's say you buy Krishna. I give you $100. You say, gee, that Swami's not so bad. Looks pretty mean, but hey, I got $100 out of it. Come again, Swami. Visit more often, you know. Then you start talking with the other devotees, and you found out I gave all the other devotees $1,000. Now, Abai, I can understand you're a selfless person. You're a saintly Vaishnava. But, you know, human nature, you were feeling very happy with the $100, right? But then when you found out that I gave everybody else $1,000, you say, hey, Swami, you get your car, drive out to the airport. Where's my other $900, Swami? You know? So, sure, Krishna can give us material happiness. Om Jaya Jagadisvara. Give me a new car and a house by the sea. Or, oh God, give us this day our daily bread. Prabhupada said, that's not love of God. That's love of bread, you know? So we can pray for material things and Krishna can give it. But is that the real thing? If Krishna can pull us out of this material world and give us an eternal spiritual body, Satchidananda Vigraha, where every step is a dance, every word is a song, where everything is conscious. I was in the room, Prabhupada said sometimes if you're busy doing something else, the garlands will string themselves and the rice will tell you when it's done. That's where we belong. We don't belong in this horrible, nasty, little bit of paltry pleasure, you know? We'll end with this example. I promise. Oh, I want to say about 3 people and then we'll end. 3 different. The difference, what consciousness makes the difference? It is not conditions that make us happiness. If you don't remember anything else from this talk, we are all trying to find the right conditions to make us happy. But conditions do not make us happy. It is consciousness that makes us happy. It is our consciousness. Conditions are always changing, and they never satisfy. Consciousness anywhere will be happy, whether in jail. Remind me next time, I'll give a class about consciousness and conditions. But here's an example of Vaishnava consciousness. Everywhere, Prabhupada's example, there will be 3 categories of people that we relate to. This is just the way it is. There are always going to be people that are in a more materially better off position, who are superior to us. There are always going to be people like that. It's just the way it is. There are always going to be people who are on the same level as us. And there are always going to be people that are in, you know, a weaker or more impoverished or more needy condition. There's always going to be that. There's always going to be people who are superior, in a better, comfortable position, people who are equal, and people who are inferior. You got it? There's always going to be 3 categories. Now, the materialist, those who are superior, they're envious of. They're dissatisfied and green with envy, as they say. People who are on the same, we compete with. Try to push them down, try to trip them, try to get their position, try to best them. And people who are in a weaker position, the materialists, they try to exploit. So imagine the world, generally speaking, of the materialist. He's either envious, competing, or exploiting. That's a very hellish mental world to live in. That's the fevers. They're full of lust, anger, greed, envy. These things are always brewing. It's the poisonous mix brewing within the mind and within the heart. How does a Vaishnava see? Those who are, it's called Jiva Hamsa. The bad side is enviousness of other living entities, exploitation of envious. The opposite of that, of Jiva Hamsa, given by Rupa Goswami, is Jiva Doya. Anyone know what Jiva Doya is? Anyone want to unmute and say what Jiva Doya is? Doya means
Compassion.
mercy.
Mercy.
Mercy, compassion. So the Vaishnava, those who are in inferior, difficult, lesser position, the devotee is merciful to. They try to elevate them. They try to help them, give them prasadam, give them, help them advance in spiritual life. I mean, Prabhupada started Food for Life. Prabhupada said no one should go hungry within 8 miles of a temple. Prabhupada said, how can they hear Bhagavad Gita if their stomach is empty, So Vaishnavas we have eye camps, we have Bhaktivedanta Hospital. We're not, dull stones. But that's not the dead end. You feed their belly, you fix their eyes, and they can go watch Bollywood movies. How have you helped them? But if they can read Bhagavatam or see the beautiful deity, hey, then it's a good thing they can see. So the Vaishnava is merciful to those who are less. What is a Vaishnava's relationship with those who are the same? They make friendship. Hey, Prabhu, Mataji, how are you? We make and there's nothing sweeter than Vaishnava friendship. And those who are superior, we offer service and we learn from. So we can either live in a world that's exploitative, that's envious, that's competition, never satisfied, or we can have Vaishnava consciousness where we're giving mercy, we're making friends, and we're serving and learning. Which world do we want to live in? We have a choice. That is the existential either or cornerstone philosophical question of human life. What is it? Janmadasya yataha. Atato brahma jigyasya. Now that you have the human form of life, what is real and what is temporary? What is the real purpose of life? So we can end there. We'll take a few questions. Anybody got a question? Don't be shy. Here's what happens. Nobody wants to answer a question. Everybody's shy. Everybody thinks somebody else will answer a question. But all it takes is one person to break the ice. Then everybody's got questions. So we need one brave soul to ask a question.
Yeah,
I will ask you a question.
I have a question, Maharaj.
Okay, so we've got Vijay Prabhu. You're asking a question?
Yeah. Hi. Hare
Okay, ask
Krishna,
away.
Maharaj. Okay. How do I remind myself every day that I'm not this body and I have a soul, or just kind of, the body is getting old and there are challenges happening to our body. But
oh, you think? How old are you? Do you mind me asking? Do you ask me how old you are?
No, you know what?
You don't have to say. I'll tell you right now.
That's all right.
I'll tell you right now. I'm 67. The older you get, it won't be hard. There are so many difficulties in this world. There's no question about it. So the material nature will do its job. It will remind you. But the thing is, the key to the thing is, we have to read regularly. We have to hear. If a man is sleeping, and you have to keep good association. Actually, Prabhupada has crafted ISKCON perfectly. Rupa Goswami gives 64, you've read Nectar of Devotion? You got to read, man. It's a science. It's like, suppose I say to you, I feel weak and I'm always hungry. I have no energy, I'm weak, I feel bad. I say, Prabhu, do you eat your meals? Oh, no, I don't eat. Well, why don't you try eating? That might help, So Prabhupada labored to, I'll give you an example. Prabhupada came to New York. This is Henry Street, the old temple in New York. And there was a little garden in back. And it was summertime. And every devotee east of the Mississippi came. There like, 300, 400 devotees stuffed into this little temple, So there was people literally sleeping on the fire escape, on the roof, on the sidewalk out in front. So Prabhupada would rise early in the morning, sometimes 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and do his translating work because it was quiet then, and he could actually think. And devotees were up all the time. So the temple president arranged that this little garden was right up against Prabhupada's rooms, So there was a guard there that no one could go into that garden and make noise, so that Prabhupada could, peacefully do his translating work. You don't want a bunch of devotees talking this, that, Okay. So they had, Prabhupada was there for 4 days, and there was a shift, and so 24 hours, there was a guard there. So it was the 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock shift. I volunteered in the morning, a.m. I thought, I'll chant japa, whatever. So I'm up. About 2 o'clock in the morning, Prabhupada comes into the room and turns the light on. Now, if you've ever been outside and someone turns the light on inside, you can see, I could see. Prabhupada was no more than 6-7 feet from me. And because it was summertime, the window was open, there was no screen, Prabhupada liked the nice fresh air coming in. So I could see Prabhupada. He sat down at his desk, and he picked, Pradumna would do the Sanskrit translation. Prabhupada could do it, but, whatever clerk work, and I don't mean to, we're deeply indebted to Pradumna, but, Prabhupada didn't do the clerk work. He would have somebody, do the word for word transliteration, and then Prabhupada would check it, he'd make some corrections if because the main thing Prabhupada wanted to give the translation, the verse, and the purport. That was Prabhupada's main, and he wanted to focus on that. So, I saw him. He was looking at, Pradumna's work. It was on Prabhupada's desk. They put it on Prabhupada's desk every evening, and Prabhupada in the morning would look at it. He turned on his dictaphone. He said a few things. Then he reached behind him and he pulled his Srimad Bhagavatam with 5 different commentaries. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sridhar Swami, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Baladev Vijayabhustan, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. 5 commentaries for each verse. So Prabhupada referenced that. Then he pulled down, some Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then he pulled down Madhvacharya's Bhagavad Gita. So he was reading, and then he would read a little bit, and he would speak a little bit, then he would sit back and think. And I was thinking how all the rivers, little ice melting, they all flow down in little rivers out of the Himalayas. And then they all fall, into the Jamuna, into the different, the different rivers. And then ultimately becomes the Ganga that flows into the sea, into the ocean. And I was thinking, when we open up Srila Prabhupada's books, all the words of the previous acharyas, all the different shastras, Prabhupada has expertly selected them all. And knowing how, he lived with us. He knew the Western modern mentality. He knew what, as Rabindra Swarup used to say, Prabhupada spent time in Times Square. Prabhupada knew what was going on. Prabhupada traveled all over the world and talked to people. So he took all the timeless wisdom of the Vedic and he put it right in the pages of his Bhagavatam. And you simply open it up, and we are perfectly associating with all the Shastra, all the great saints, all the great acharyas, perfectly presented in the pages of Prabhupada's books. So I want to finish this story, but to answer your question, we need to read. We have time to read the newspaper, MSNBC, or what's happening in the stock market, or chit-chat on WhatsApp, whose nephew's relative is getting married. Really? Time for all of that. Whatever it is, drops of water wear away stone. So we read. The other thing is you got to have good association. We need good association. If you associate with nice, strong devotees, just their example, just their association will help us. And we got to chant nice japa. Not when we're driving in the car, listen to the radio, or, what am I going to have for lunch, or, no. They say that psychologically people need to take small mini vacations, and they're now introducing intelligent work circles. They're teaching people how to meditate, because they can get more productivity. You take 50 instead of taking a coffee break and talking gossip, take a 15-minute meditation. They're teaching people, mindless, and they become more focused and peaceful, and relationships are better. So they're teaching people how to take mini mental vacations. Well, we also need a mental vacation. Take time every day and just chant japa. It's just you and Krishna's holy name, and just hear the sweet sound of the holy name. Rupa Goswami says, I do not know how much nectar these two syllables hold. Krishna. When I hear these two syllables, and it works for Rama and it works for Hare, I hear these syllables. I wish I had millions of tongues. And when they enter the ear, I wish I had millions of ears. And when they dance in the core of my heart, the mind is conquered, and thus the senses become subdued. Just take shelter, chant nice japa, good association, hear and read Prabhupada's books, and we give mercy to others. That also, we preach to others, we begin to appreciate ourselves, So everything is perfectly crafted. If we just follow it, the rest of it,
Maharaj,
Sitaram. Sitaram.
cracking.
Can you hear me? We want to see you. We want to see your bright face. Possible or not possible? Asish, we can see you because it's a visual thing. Okay, everybody look at Asish. Now we want your face. Asish, please touch your nose. Touch your nose. I'm serious. Okay. No. This is, Prabhupada did this. This is how we touch our nose. See me? Is that intelligent? Asish, you just do this. Just the simplest. What is it? Occam's razor? That which has the least steps, which is the simplest, most straightforward answer to a problem, is probably the best answer. What is it? I forgot it. Occam's razor. It's called Occam's razor. So we just follow. Prabhupada's given us the recipe. You follow the recipe, you're going to get the result. And Rupa Goswami, that's what nectar devotion. 564 elements of worship. It's all the nectar devotion. It's an open test. It's a match. Right? It's like, what do you call it? Google Maps. We've all got a direction. What do you call that? You punch in the address.
We cannot hear you one.
Huh?
We cannot hear you.
GPS. Huh?
Maharaj, your voice is cracking when you're going back and forth. I think that's what's
Okay, sorry. Please don't take offense, the ladies. The ladies can switch the joke over and tell it about men, but it's a true experience. I was going to a program with Radhanath Swami. You all know Radhanath Maharaj? Completely saintly, you know Radhanath, genuine stuff, right? So there was the devotee. He's a nice devotee. And he had a brand new, Mercedes SUV. Fine, nice car. We're not criticized. Whatever, it's not, none of my business. Fine, But it's when those voice, GPS voices first came on, and it was the woman's voice. So, and he was showing the car can go 0 to 60 this fast. It's got chrome mag wheels. It's really not, out there at the Daytona 500. What's the latest race car? He's like, okay, fine. He's very polite, but and the devotee was bragging about his car. That's my point. And so we get in the car, and it's got voice, whatever the prompt. It's the lady's voice, and you get in. There's a jar. There's a jar. Everybody, there's a seatbelt. Turn left, right. So you get someone's voice answering us. Do this, do that. Yeah. Radhanath Maharaj, after about 10 minutes of this, said, "This is worse than being married." Ha. You don't get the joke? So my point is that we are being badgered all the time. And the 64 elements chanting the holy name, which means japa, and sankirtan, giving it to others. Living in a holy place, which means making a house temple or going to a temple. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Association of devotees. And what is the other one? There's one other thing I forgot. Oh, worship the deity. So worshiping the deity. Living in a holy place, association of devotees, Sankirtan, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we look at how Prabhupada's crafted ISKCON, it's perfect for these things. All we have to do is just get in the boat and follow. So it's a long answer to your question, but if we keep good association, read regularly, chant nice japa, it'll work. Don't worry. It takes time, but it works. Krishna consciousness works. It's guaranteed. We just have to follow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take maybe one more question and then we'll bail because I got to get going. You have another question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you for the wonderful class. So yeah, I had one question that.
Thank you for taking. Chanakya Pandit says that an intelligent person can take nectar from a stock of poison, gold from an unclean place, and a good lesson even from a fool. So I'm a fool, but you've managed to extract something from it. It's your fault, but thank you for the kind words. So go ahead. What's your question?
So I've heard from many like non-devotees who first initially come into Krishna consciousness, or even before, when they hear of ISKCON, they always like to show off of, their knowledge and everything. Oh, they know everything and all. So I remember I was encountering one person, and he was arguing with me about Krishna's confidential pastimes with the gopis and everyone. So I said, why did Krishna have 10,000 wives? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? And all. But when all this happened, how do you counteract or argue back, saying that, hey, this is very confidential, but
let me ask you a question before we get to that. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was a kid. Well, let that be a lesson to you. Time and tide wait for no one. I was a kid at one point. So when I was a kid, I remember, I think it was even maybe third grade. How old are you in third grade? Fourth grade at the most? Whatever. What is that? 10 years old? Something like that? I made a model of the universe. A styrofoam model. Do you ever do that with the little balls and you paint them different colors and you hang them on string and it makes a little mobile? Now, you read the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I challenge anyone to read the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and not walk away scratching their head. What was that all about? Now, to help you out, let me give you an example. I don't want to go too far afield, but suppose, we'll get back to your question, don't worry, but Abai, suppose I say you coming to San Diego, and I tell you, meet me at the corner of Grand and Garnett Street. It's a big intersection, Grand and Garnett. And to make it clear, we fix the date, we fix the time, 9:00 a.m., we fix the date, we say southwest corner. Pretty simple, right? Now, you're a responsible guy. You show up early. You're there 8:45. You wait, it gets to be, 9:30. You think, geez, what happened to the Swami? And you're a nice person, but you got things to do. You take off. I see you the next day. I say, Abai, where were you? I was waiting for you. I got there early. I was waiting from 8:45 to 9:30. How is it possible? Because it is possible. How is it possible that you and I were both on the corner of Grand and Garnett on the southwest corner at the exact same time, the exact same station, could not see each other? How is it possible? I'll give you an example. Suppose there's a building on the corner, okay? Suppose you're on the ground floor, I'm on the 5th floor. 2 dimensions, when you've just got length and breadth, we're in the same spot. As soon as you add the other dimension of height, We're in the same spot in 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions. We don't even see each other. Now, the fact of the matter is, I mean, time is the 4th dimension. There's so many dimensions in physics. So we live in a multi-dimensional universe. That's a fact. And according to just like a computer, kid goes on a computer, does a few games, you know. Somebody else goes on the computer, you know, maybe they're watching movies or whatever, you know. Somebody else, the father, maybe he works for NASA, he's got the security code, he goes. So according to one's access level and competency, the computer manifests whole different levels, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
if I turn my phone, I can shop. I got a phone. I'm on Amazon. I can see what's happening in a cricket game. I can see if Pakistan's beating India or whatever it is, you know. I just have to have the right device right now in each of your rooms. Amazon's flying past. Networks is flying past. You know, ESP. There's so many things in your immediate universe if you have the right device to access. So the great yogis and great mystics, they have the ability to access these other dimensions. It is not bewildering if one has the intelligence to understand. So first off, I don't understand. Well, frankly, excuse my French, who the hell are you? We don't know how many hairs are on our head. We don't even know how we digest food. We don't know what's happening on the other side of the wall. I don't understand. Well, I don't know why. I was in Prabhupada's room one time, and this man said 3 or 4 times, well, Swami, as far as I know. Well, Swami, as far as I know. After the 3rd or 4th time, Prabhupada said, that's my point. How far do you know? So that's the first thing. It's the arrogance of the living entity. We're being kicked like a football. We can't figure out a damn thing. We've got a society, it's a complete disaster. You know, I mean, well, I don't understand. And we think that we, you know, at 3rd grade, we should be able to understand the universe. Krishna should be amazing. He should be mind-blowing. It's just simplistic. Well, I had a father. My father had a father. My father's father had a father. So God must be the oldest, so he must have a gray beard and be very old. Not very happy, wrinkled. Isn't it? That's what they think. God is the oldest. You see the famous Sistine Chapel, and there's God, you know. He doesn't look very happy, man. I tell you, I wouldn't want to meet him. So, but what does Brahma Samhita say? Sure, we understand Adi Purusha. It says Purana Purusham. He's the oldest original person. We understand that. But what is the next line of the Brahma Samhita? Purana Purusham Nava Yovanam Cha. Simultaneously, he is a fresh youth. How can the source of all beauty be a wrinkled old man? Show me the seamless logic of that. So that Krishna is inconceivable. His pastimes are inconceivable and should blow our mind. And they go off on how he has 1,108 wives, right? Well, why don't they go off on the fact that he expanded himself into unlimited cows and cowherd boys? What about that? What about the fact that he expands himself into unlimited forms? Brahma Samhita. From one candle, you can light so many other candles. Still, there's the original candle. So he explained, he has Leela avatars, Guna avatars, so many different Vishnu avatars. So Krishna is in every field, he's unlimited. So and as there are different rasas, shouldn't he be unlimited lover? He expands himself to reciprocate with every living entity. So there's unlimited living entities. By the law of averages, there are going to be unlimited living entities who are in conjugal ras. He expands unlimitedly times. He has unlimited Nanda Maharajas, unlimited Mother Yasodas. He has unlimited cowherd boyfriends. He has unlimited cows. Everything is unlimited. Because a blind man thinks everything else is blind, They focus on the fact he had 1,108 wives. Sure, he had 1,108 times 000 cowherd boys and cows and gopis and servants in Dwarka. Everything was unlimited. But because they're lusty and because they're trying to find fault, they focus on this one thing because they simply cannot process it. They cannot imagine conjugal love without, frankly, mundane sex. They just can't imagine it because their brain is full of cow dung. One man said to Prabhupada, this process is brainwashing. Prabhupada said, if the brain is dirty, shouldn't you wash it? And Prabhupada said, actually get a brain, then we'll wash it. The man said, I have a brain. Prabhupada said, if you have a brain, it is cow dung. I mean, Prabhupada could be heavy because the guy was just like, nonsense, and Prabhupada just snapped him around. So they got these cow brain, Kali Yuga brains, and they were, gopis, well, gee, man, must be lusty, He's unlimited in every ras. I'll tell you one quick story. There was an Indian gentleman, and there's many nice Christians, don't get me wrong. There's many pious, sincere, dedicated Christians, assuming they're vegetarian. There are some very nice vegetarian, who, and we can learn from them. We can learn humility. We can learn charity. I'm not writing them off. And we've got plenty of pompous Vaishnavas, so, it's hypocrisy is there in every field, as is their sincerity. So, but this is the example. So Rabindra Swarup Prabhu invited this Indian professor to come and meet Srila Prabhupada. And he was teaching religions, the professor. So Rabindra naturally thought, it would be a nice conversation. Turns out the guy was a fundamentalist Christian. And he comes in to see Prabhupada. The first thing he said was, I see that you are a Vaishnava. Tilaksi, because I'm obviously. So he said to Prabhupada, I see that you're a Vaishnava. He said, but you are worshiping, but I am a Christian. He said, my God is virtuous. Your God dances with other men's wives. First thing he said to Prabhupada, right off the bat, Prabhupada said, I see that you're married. Because the man had, in America, they wear a ring on them, So Prabhupada said, I see that you're married. Prabhupada said, actually, Krishna is the only Purusha. He's the only enjoyer. Everyone else is the enjoyed. What are you doing with one of Krishna's gopis? You are calling Krishna on, cheating, lusty, but what are you doing? You, sir, are the cheater. You are stealing from Krishna. Completely blew the guy's mind. He actually later on became angry. It's a whole story, But the simple point is that actually everything belongs to Krishna. Everyone, according to their rasa, and there's 5 rasas, then there's 7 sub-rasas, and there's all kinds of mix, like from 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow, you can get all the colors of the rainbow. So there's a whole combinations of rasa, and in every ras, in order to be complete, Krishna's Purnam, right? Don't we accept Krishna's Purnam?
Yes.
Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. Okay, now who have I not picked on? Jyoti. Can you hear me, Jyoti? We're going to do a little quick algebra. No, Jyoti? Sitaram, can you hear us? Unmute if you can hear us. All right. Swanana, can I come? Are you muted? Yeah, can you hear me?
Your voice broke up. Who are you calling, Maharaj?
Suba and Anand, can you hear me?
Soba.
Yep. Suba, you with us? Okay. Here's the question. If I have a set of numbers and I have a subset of that numbers, can I have any number in the subset that's not in the original set?
No.
It's basic algebra. You can't have anything in the master set. You can't have it in the subset that's not in the original set. If I take, in Prabhupada's example, if I take a drop of water from the ocean, can have any quality in the drop that's not also in the ocean? Quantity is another thing, but is there a difference in quality?
No.
Can't be, right? Now, we are emanations. We are parts and parcels of Krishna, right? Now, we have all different rastas. We have friendship. We have parental. We have servitorship. We have friendship. We also have conjugal. How can we have a ras that Krishna doesn't have? Does that make any logical sense?
Yeah.
So the point is, when they make this challenge, it's foolish, baseless, and you just have to take the time to unwind it. If God is unlimited, he should have unlimited gopis, he should have unlimited cows, unlimited, everything unlimited. And it should be mind-blowing. Because Krishna is inconceivably mind-blowing. Even Krishna cannot fully understand Krishna. How about that? Wrap your mind around that one. Okay, Prabhus, I think we should end here. Thank you very much for your kind association. Much appreciated. And we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you very much,
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
for joining us
glory,
today.
all glory to is. I tell you something. Just hold on a second. We opened a little preaching center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. University of Michigan was there. And we started up, me and my wife. This is, 50 years ago, 45 years ago. We took a few snapshots of the little house, tiny little house. I think we had one new devotee had joined. So there was 3 of us out in front of the temple. We sent a snapshot to Prabhupada. So very humble little thing. This is 1972, 73. Prabhupada wrote back. Prabhupada said, when I hear that a new center has opened, I drink it like ambrosial nectar. So you guys are having together there in Bergen County, and you're preaching nicely. Eventually, you'll build a nice temple. You'll have a nice congregation. If you stay pure, if you simply be what we're supposed to be, it's just be humble, nice Vaishnavas, follow the process. It's attractive. Prabhupada says, if there's pure ghee, there'll always be customers. If there's pure milk, there'll always be customers. If you're selling pure gold, there'll always be customers. If we are kind, compassionate Vaishnavas that follow strictly ISKCON standard given to us by Prabhupada, it's attractive. We'll become happy and people will be attractive. So you can know for certain that you are giving Prabhupada a nice glass of ambrosial nectar by your preaching activities in Bergen County. Thank every town and village, and that certainly means Bergen County. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.